You ever wake up thinking your day can't possibly get any worse and then you find out? Nope. The universe has a whole different agenda for you? That's how I found out the HOA built 28 luxury condos on my land while I was flat on my back in a hospital room, fighting a heart that wanted out. They didn't just sneak across the fence line. They bulldozed the century-old oak tree where I'd scattered Sarah's ashes, then poured 6 inches of concrete over what was left of her memory. And the president, Barbara Kelso, had the guts to look me dead in my tired eyes and say, "It's too late for nostalgia." She had no idea she'd just poked a bear who spent 30 years learning how to tear down empires faster than she could build them. You know those moments where your whole world stops spinning and all you can hear is the blood pounding in your ears? That was me, standing at the edge of what used to be my 5-acre slice of heaven in the foothills. Barbara liked to call it underutilized green space in her fancy newsletters. But to me, it was the last piece of the old world my dad left me back in '83. I still remember the smell of pine needles, the grit of dust on my tongue as we cleared brush together, just me, Dad, and an old Ford tractor that leaked more oil than it burned. I was 22, just home from a tour that frayed every nerve I had left. And Dad, well, he wasn't much for words. He just handed me a chainsaw and told me, "You don't really own something till you've bled for it." We left that big oak standing in the middle on purpose. Dad called it the North Star of the Carvers. Said, "A piece of land isn't home till you've got something you can see from a mile off, something that tells you you're almost there." Dad passed on 10 years later, but every time I walked those 5 acres, I could still hear him reminding me to watch the surface roots, to respect the slope of the earth. When I lost my Sarah 3 years ago, that oak was the only place that felt quiet enough to hold her. We buried her ashes right there, under its branches. I made a promise to the wind I'd build a little cabin on that spot, nothing fancy. Just a porch for Emily and the grandkids to watch fireflies and feel their grandma close by. Peaceful. Until Heritage Point started creeping up the ridge like mold in slow motion. Sharp pantsuits. A smile that made you check your pockets after shaking her hand. She came around a few times, talking boundary adjustments and community synergy, saying the old county maps were fuzzy and my parcel was never properly recorded. I showed her the deed, original vellum, signed in 1968. She just shrugged and said, "Paperwork can be messy, Mr. Carver. We'll let the lawyers sort it out." I figured, what's the worst that could happen? I'm a carver. We've lived on this ridge since before HOAs were a gleam in any developer's eye. Then my heart decided to quit. Doctors called it a cardiac event. I called it 3 weeks staring at popcorn ceilings and counting the beeps on a machine. Gives a man plenty of time to think about what he's leaving behind. All I could see was Emily's face and that cabin I'd never built. When I finally got out, Emily wanted me to come stay at her place. But I needed the dirt under my boots. I needed to stand under Sarah's tree and remind my heart why it ought to keep beating. But when I turned down the dirt track to my gate, my stomach dropped like a stone. The fence? Gone. Not just cut, erased. In its place, red mud torn up by heavy machinery. And the skeletons of 28 condos rising where my peace used to be. Cheap house wrap flapping in the wind. Packed in so tight you'd think they were scared of open sky. I slammed my truck into park. My chest went tight, not the heart. Just pure fury. The oak Sarah's tree was a stump, right underneath the corner of Building C. They hadn't just taken my land. They desecrated a grave and called it Phase 4 development. As I rolled past a signed private property, Heritage Point HOA, NOTRESBASSNGA security guard stepped out. Some kid, never done a real day's work, tapping his pepper spray like he was Wyatt Earp. "Sorry, sir. Restricted area." I told him, "This is my land." He smirked. "Not according to the plat. Sir, you need to turn around before I call the sheriff." I looked at the curing concrete over Sarah's resting place and realized they'd built this in 21 days. Like parasites. But looking at the sloppy framing, the way they ignored the drainage, something else pushed out the grief. Cold. Calculating clarity. See, Barbara never knew I owned the most successful demolition and heavy recovery firm in 3 counties. I know how things get built and I know exactly how they fail. I backed out, nodded at the guard. Saw Barbara smirking from her clubhouse window. She thought I was finished. She had no idea I was going home to open my safe and pull out the original utility easements and the heavy-duty permits they'd overlooked. War hadn't even started. Here's what people like Barbara get wrong. They think silence is surrender. But the loudest thing in my world? That split second before the supports give way. I spent the next 48 hours in the basement of the county records building. Place smells like damp promises. That's where I found Frank, an old-timer who's seen every crooked land deal since the 70s. Mike, he says, sliding me a coffee stain map. They didn't just steal your dirt. They buried a landmine and sat on it. Turns out, there was a 20-foot wide municipal sewer easement, feeding the whole valley recorded back in '78. Under state law, you can't build a doghouse on that line, let alone condos. But there they were on the HOA's plat line erased. Condos sitting right on top, like ducks in a shooting gallery. I didn't call the cops. Didn't call the news, not yet. I needed them to keep spending, pouring every cent into that red mud. The higher they built, the harder the crash. Wednesday, Barbara called a community transparency meeting at the clubhouse with a neighborly chat. Sure, but with the stage set for my public execution. Room packed full of folks who bought into the Heritage Point dream. People looking at me like I was dragging down their property values. Barbara stood at the podium in her victory red blazer, voice oozing fake empathy. We understand there's been confusion regarding Mr. Carver's parcel, but progress waits for no one. The land was unmaintained, an eyesore inviting liability. We've acted in the best interest of the community. I stood up, hands gripping a chair so tight my knuckles hurt. It wasn't an eyesore, Barbara. It was a sanctuary. And that deed in your hand is a forgery of intent. The room erupted. Sit down. Old man. That was Greg Sims, the guy who measures his neighbor's grass with a ruler. We're finally getting a pool's top being selfish. Barbara's smile turned sharp as a knife. Mike, the concrete's poured. The frames are up. We'll offer you a generous buyout. Take the win. Go retire somewhere quiet. Looking around, I saw people ready to pave over a man's life for a bump in their home value. That's when I felt the knot of certainty twist in my chest. You want quiet, Barbara? You're about to learn what quiet really means. I left to the sound of their laughter. But I didn't go home. I called my foreman. Randy told him, bring the D9S, the long-reach excavators, and keep it low profile. We move at dawn. Next morning, I didn't start with a wrecking bally, started with the law. My surveyor Lena spent 4 hours shooting lines while the crews hammered away. Oblivious. By noon, her report was a death sentence for Phase 4 condos built on a sewer main, using a survey that was just a preliminary sketch from '97. I went to the back of the county permit office, where the inspectors hide. Showed them everything. If that line blows, the head inspector muttered, the whole valley's under 2 feet of raw sewage. Then signed the red tag order. I said, because I'm the owner, and I'm about to perform an emergency abatement. Barbara tried her best villain impression, sent the sheriff to my house that night. Filed for a restraining order. Deputies showed up, but I just invited them in and played security footage, Barbara herself, in a black hoodie, trying to plant hazardous waste in my yard for an environmental audit. That's trespassing, tampering, and filing a false report. The older deputy shook his head. Barbara's lost her mind. But what really broke Mimi, grandson Leo, eyes red, whispering, Grandpa, why are they dumping trash on Grandma's tree? On the site feed, a backhoe was digging a shallow pit at the oak stump, using it as a landfill for construction debris. That was the last straw. I called Emily, told her to take the kids to her mother-in-law's. Is it happening? Dad, it's happening. Honey, I'm bringing the North Star back. Friday, the grand ribbon cutting. Barbara had balloons. News cruise. A giant banner. The future starts here. She was mid-sentence, scissors in hand, when the ground began to shake. Not an earthquake. Just 4 12-liter diesels coming through the trees. My fleet rolled in yellow and black ironclad machines. Randy at the lead. HOA asphalt turned to gravel. The crowd scattered. Barbara dropped her scissors. Went pale. I stepped out. Hard hat on. Stack of court orders in hand. Didn't need a microphone, the silence was enough. Walked straight to the model unit. Taped a red tag to the door. The future just got canceled. Barbara. 10 minutes to clear out. Then I start the clock. She screeched. You can't do this. You have a sewer main under your feet and a forgery charge over your head. As of 10 minutes ago, city revoked your occupancy. County revoked your title and I'm just the guy cleaning up the trash. The excavator's first bite sounded like a gunshot. The crowd gasped as those condos splintered. Barbara lunged. Tried to claw me. But the same deputies she'd sent to harass me cuffed her instead. Not today. Barbara, you're under arrest. I didn't watch her go watch the excavator tear apart the place that had covered Sarah's resting place. It wasn't about money. It was about wait, the sound of 28 houses being unmade. Not a clean break. Long, agonizing groans. Glass and wood surrendering to steel. By 2 that afternoon, Heritage Point was a pile of rubble. The news cameras caught Barbara getting pushed into a patrol car as her dreams turned to dust behind her. I stood on that red dirt. Machines humming under my boots. And for the first time in weeks, me heart felt steady. Randy asked if we should pull the slab gentle. Like it's fine china. I told him. We spent hours doing what the HOA never did, respecting the ground. Peeled back concrete. Cleaned out every scrap of trash. We sifted through every handful of dirt until it was clean again. Legal fallout came quick. Barbara in a holding cell. HOA board resigning to dodge racketeering charges. The Carver rule, passed now, it's a felony for an HOA to claim land without a triple verified survey and public hearing. But that's just history books. The real victory? A month later. On a Tuesday that smelled like rain and wood smoke. I didn't take the city's settlement, I told them. Cut the check to the trade school. Fund scholarships for builders who respect the land. The Sarah Carver grant. Emily and the grandkids came up. Brought a white oak sapling. 10 feet tall, a descendant of the one Dad and I had spared. We dug the hole together. Right where the old one stood. Chloe asked, is Grandma Sarah happy now? I looked at the hillside. Free of condos and signs. Felt the mountain breeze in our new North Star's leaves. She's finally got some room to breathe. Honey, and so do we. That summer, we built the cabins low. No blueprints, but the ones Dad drew in my mind. Cedar siding. A porch for sunsets. Windows that catch the light just right. No HOA to tell us what color the door should be. Some nights, I sit out there and look across the valley. The other houses just look like neighbors now. Not invaders. David, one of the men who'd shouted at me, came by last week with a basket of peaches and an apology. We let ourselves get small. He said, we forgot people matter more than property values. I handed him a cold beer. The earth levels things out. David, if you listen to the silence. So that's my story. A man, a mountain, and the demolition of a lie. But as you sit in your own neighborhood, looking at the rules and fences and folks in charge, who really owns the ground you stand on? Is it the one with the deed? Or the one with the best lawyer? Was I right to tear it all down? Or was I just an old man clinging to a ghost? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share your HOA stories. The times they went too far. The times you pushed back. Did you win? Or are you still living under their thumb? Out here on the ridge, the North Star's growing again. And for the first time in a long time, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be.